In terms of both numbers and mass, there are more bugs on Earth than any other type of creature. They live in the air, water, and ground across all continents, but don't let their small size fool you. While most bugs are completely harmless, some can be lethal to humans. In this video, we'll be looking at 5 of the most dangerous bugs on the planet, ones that you do well to completely avoid. Before we begin, make sure you hit that subscribe button to get notified every day for more amazing content. With that being said, let's begin. Number 5. Mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are, quite simply, the cause of the most human deaths worldwide every year. Evidence from fossils has shown that these small, midge-like flies have been around for at least 79 million years, which is far longer than humans, and they're very good at adapting to new conditions. There are over 3,500 known different species of mosquito, and while the males live for a few short days and feed on fruit, the females need to drink blood to produce eggs. Mosquitoes themselves don't actually cause any harm whatsoever. It's the parasites that they carry within them that are what cause problems. They're the hosts to at least 10 of the world's nastiest diseases that are cumulatively responsible for over 1 million deaths a year. Malaria is the most prevalent mosquito-borne parasite, and it's one that's picked up when the females feed on an infected person. It develops inside their body for the next couple of weeks, and then is injected into new hosts every time they feed. In humans, the malaria parasite grows within red blood cells and ultimately destroys them, which results in symptoms like fevers, headaches, kidney failure, and possibly death. Other parasites that can be passed on by mosquitoes include the West Nile virus, which originates in birds and, when contracted to humans, affects the lymphatic system. There's also dengue fever, which infects about 100 million people annually, yellow fever, which has a fatality rate of up to 50%, and chikungunya, which sounds delicious but results in symptoms similar to malaria. In the past couple of years, the Zika virus has been infecting people around the world, and this too is spread by mosquitoes. It can cause pretty horrific symptoms, including microcephaly, which causes shrunken heads in newborn babies, and for a while there was a great concern it could become a global health emergency. The reason mosquitoes are so widespread is because they breed in stagnant water, and with increasing temperatures around the world, they're spreading more than ever. They're also resilient to attempts to eradicate them, so the best we can do is try to reduce their numbers. Eliminating temporary pools of water and chemical spraying has a limited effect, but considering they've been on the planet for longer than us, our best choice is to find ways to combat the effects that the parasites have on us. Number 4. Locusts. They were one of the plagues sent by God in the Bible, and while they can't directly kill humans, locusts can cause extreme destruction to the environment and, as a consequence, significantly affect the way we live. Feeding on vegetation, a locust can grow to 3 inches long and often lives a solitary life like a grasshopper. When they behave like this, they aren't a problem, but when they enter what's known as the gregarious phase, they become devastating. This phase is triggered by environmental conditions that create large amounts of green vegetation, and as a result, encourages mass breeding. Huge numbers will group together and swarm, eating everything that lies in their path. A swarm can travel huge distances. In 1954, for example, one covered the distance from North Africa to Britain, and in 1988, a swarm made the journey from West Africa across the Atlantic to the Caribbean. These large numbers of locusts can form in many parts of the world, but they're most problematic in Africa because of the dependence on sustenance farming. One variety, the desert locust, is one of the most notorious and breed in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. They cover 1/5 of the world's surface and are a risk to the livelihoods of 1/10 of the world's human population. Swarms of the desert locust can cover 460 square miles or can tightly compress with up to 80 million individual insects within just half a square mile. The quantity of vegetation these large masses can consume is simply staggering. Each individual will eat its own weight in plant mass every day, which means the largest swarms will get through around 423 million pounds of plant material daily. Losing this much food on a daily basis can be devastating for local businesses and communities that struggle to provide for themselves in even optimal conditions. It can lead to famine and extreme poverty, something that's practically impossible to avoid once a swarm takes flight. With changing weather patterns around the world, no one's quite sure how the prevalence of locusts will be affected. Some predict that the swarming behavior will become more common, and this could have a major effect on communities all around the world. Number 3. Fire ants. Fire ants are a number of species of stinging ant that are named as such because of the burning sensation you feel if you're unfortunate enough to be stung by one. There are over 200 different species of stinging ant around the world, and each of them have their own nasty traits. They're good at adapting to new environments and are one of the most invasive species in the world. Nowadays, you can find them all over the United States, for example, where previously they weren't present at all. Typically, they're red in color and function in the same way most other ant species do. Colonies grow up from the ground with a hole at the top, and their main food source comes from seeds and plants. They also attack small animals though, and the occasional human. Their method of attack is unusual for an ant. Rather than spraying acid on a target, they instead bite their victim and hold tight with their mandibles while they maneuver and sting with their abdomen. This sting injects a toxic venom that'll give a nasty burning sensation to a human. The danger from fire ants comes when they attack in a swarm. Part of the venom they inject also triggers the release of pheromones that alert other ants to the location. All within range will immediately move towards the target and help with the attack. While one sting alone can be a mild annoyance, if you were to be subjected to hundreds at once, you'd be in real trouble. Those who are allergic to insect bites will need to be treated immediately or they may die. But even if you don't have a susceptibility, a large attack could prove to be fatal. Large doses of the venom can cause difficulty breathing and moving, and if you don't get help soon, you may find yourself being carried back to the colony to become dinner. Number 2. Botfly. While these may look like a normal bumblebee, they're in fact botflies, and these furry bugs can prove to be very harmful to humans. It's not so much their bite that's the cause of problems, but the ingenious way in which they breed. Something that can prove to be extremely painful to anyone they choose to be a host. There are over 150 different known species of the fly, and they don't live for very long, only a matter of days. With such a short lifespan, they exist for one thing: to mate and lay their eggs. To do this, they enlist the help of other insects like mosquitoes or fleas that feed on warm-blooded animals. They catch the mosquitoes and deposit their eggs on them, so when the mosquito drinks blood, the eggs are injected into the host. Botfly larvae can grow inside any warm-blooded animal, so it's also possible to ingest them while eating tainted meat that hasn't been prepared correctly. After entering the body, the eggs can float around the bloodstream and latch onto flesh. They then hatch and will feed on the surrounding area until they are mature enough to burrow out and fly away. Victims tend to find cavities in their skin where this has happened, and these wounds are significantly more likely to get infected. This can lead to further complications and sometimes death. Of course, this entirely depends on where you've been bitten, with some areas being far more dangerous than others. On rare occasions, botfly eggs have been known to hatch in people's eyes, throats, or other sensitive parts of the body, and the process of them tunneling out can be extremely painful and damaging. If they're noticed soon enough, they can be removed by doctors who use tweezers to extract the eggs and disinfect the area. This process, too, is rather painful, but at least it prevents infections taking hold as a result. Botflies can exist in a wide range of temperatures, so can be found all over the world, and it's difficult to control their spread. One method that proves particularly effective, though, is the use of bacon. For some reason, if you apply freshly cooked strips to an affected area, the flies will immediately start burrowing out and latching onto it instead, which still causes a wound, but not as large as if they had fully matured. Number 1. Giant Japanese hornet. Bees and wasps can be a real problem when they swarm in large numbers. But their larger cousins, even though they tend to collate in much smaller groups, can be far more dangerous. The giant Japanese hornet is one of the most feared animals in Japan. They grow up to 2 inches long and can fly at speeds of up to 25 miles per hour. The large yellow head with big compound eyes allows it to scout its surroundings, and they have an extra 3 small eyes on the top of their head between their 2 main eyes. Their thick armor means they can effectively withstand attacks from other animals, and unlike bees, they're able to sting as many times as they want without any repercussions. One of the Japanese hornet's favorite snacks is the honeybee, whose stings aren't able to penetrate the thick armor. It's virtually impossible to breed European varieties in Japan because of them, as a group of 20 can easily kill 25,000 bees in a matter of hours. The local Japanese honeybees have developed a defense mechanism that can repel the attacks by attacking as a group and surrounding the hornet. When they all vigorously beat their wings around it, they can create a ball of heat up to 46 degrees centigrade, a temperature that the hornet can't survive, so must withdraw. Hornets will feed on most insects though, so they're never too far away from their next meal. Human attacks are relatively uncommon, and the hornet won't fight unless it has no choice. If they're provoked, they can be vicious though. Their venom isn't any more potent than that of a normal bee, but they inject a great deal more in each sting through their 5.25mm long stinger. The venom targets the nervous system and damages the surrounding tissue, but isn't lethal in most cases. Nevertheless, the giant Japanese hornet is responsible for more deaths in the country than any other animal, mainly because the sting can trigger an anaphylactic shock in people that are vulnerable. This claims about 40 lives per year. But in typical Japanese fashion, the humans get their own back. In some regions of Japan, fried giant hornet is considered to be a popular delicacy. Super exciting news, everybody. The time has finally come. Head over to Come Along and enjoy the positivity from cool life hacks and crazy experiments to real-life shocking facts and puzzles and animated riddles to keep your brain active and entertained. Click the circle button on the screen right now to subscribe to this awesome channel that's soon to explode across YouTube. Come on, press that subscribe button and watch the first video, or click the link in the description. We promise you'll love it.